So, hello everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all you wonderful students. Warm welcome to our virtual session on our Montessori sensorial lesson. I'm very thrilled to embark on this exciting journey as we explore, discover, and learn together in this digital realm. So, in the unique canvas of our Zoom meeting, so we are also delving into the fascinating world of Montessori sensorial activities. So, in yesterday's class, we learned some of the lessons, which was very much rich in understanding the environment around us. Today, as we gather, we are going to work on understanding and learning a little bit more on what are those specific Montessori materials that we are going to be working. So, when you start learning about these exercises in Montessori, it's going to cultivate an atmosphere of curiosity. How could I do these exercises for a 2 year or a 3 year and a 4 year? And you would be able to see, you'll be able to collaborate lessons according to the ages of children also. So our screens might be separate. We are sitting in a very physically distant places, but the spirit of learning is going to be the same. It's going to help us connect. We're going to share our experiences. As I keep telling all of you, you have to work with your classes, you have to work with your children and get back to the same group, and you can share your experiences. The more we engage with our activities, that's how we unlock our creativity. We embrace the joy of learning, right? So remember, keep asking me questions, because every time you ask a question, it's an opportunity that we learn better. And every exercise, make a note, make an observation, discover how you could actually work with your classes and within your student community. Okay, so that's kind of challenging for all of you also to grow. All right, so yes, so we have an amazing class for today. So let's start working in our today's session. Okay, so yes, so what exactly is Montessori sensorial lesson is what we got to understand. We understood all our Montessori exercises are going to be very simple, it's useful, it's purposeful, and it is going to help people a lot beyond their expertise, right? So specifically, in case if I'm looking at these sensorial activities for our children, we are working to work only on our senses. What are our different senses, and how these exercises are going to help me in providing a good sensory education for our children. If you see in your yesterday's class, it was more generic. In case if you are not working in a Montessori school, or in case if you do not have Montessori materials, what were the alternatives that you could work to work on the same sense stimulation? But today's class is going to be purely on, for each of those exercise, how can we use a particular material to isolate the skill of learning. Okay, so if you see here, I have listed some of the materials, and you will be able to see all of them in your classes. Correct? So, how do we arrange all these materials in our classes is the next question. So, when I gather all these materials, we know it was specifically designed for children of 2 to 6 years of age. I'm only considering the CASA group. When I say the CASA group, it is from children of 3 to 6 years. When I have a little older children, they get into my elementary classes. A little older children, maybe like my 12, 13, 14, and 15, we classify them into an air kinder group. So, in this class or in this entire program of our learning of these practical skills, we are working what are the materials which I can give it for my children who are between 3 to 6 years of age. So, when I know my age group, when I know my materials, what is the next skill that I have to be working is, how am I going to arrange all these materials? How are these materials going to help my children to develop a skill for discrimination? What is discrimination? They should know, is it same, is it different? How should they learn to order? So when I'm building something, when I'm constructing something, there has to be order. Correct? So when the child is able to develop such a skill for discrimination and ordering, it will refine and broaden their sensorial education. So today's class, we're going to work on this definition. We would see what are those Montessori materials, what are their purposes, how are they going to reinforce all these exercises, what they have seen beyond in their home. Ready? Okay. Now, what do I work here? I'm going to focus. Now, my goal is to work with these 5 basic senses first. What are the 5 basic senses? Sense of seeing, sense of hearing, sense of touching, sense of tasting, and sense of smelling. Apart from all of that, we also saw some other senses. But let's begin with these 5 senses initially. So, what my lesson should do, I have to have a preparation and I gather all of these materials in my classroom. So, I can take my cylinder blocks, I can have my pink tower, my brown stairs, my red rods, Nobless cylinders, color boxes, binomial cubes, trinomial cubes. Then I can also have my geometric figures, right? So, all these materials, if I gather and I'm ready to go with my exercises, what you have to observe is whenever the teacher sees that the child is unable to complete a task, and in case if he is making mistakes, we call these mistakes as error of control, right? So they make errors and you can control those errors. So that is the meaning of it. So what should the teacher do at that time? The teacher would go, she would direct the child by telling them that is not the right knobbed cylinder to be put into that. Why? Because look at the length of it, look at the height of it, look at the diameter of it here. It is not being put rightly into the right cylinder hole, right? So that is the error. So the child is unable to figure out that error. Only then you go back. But material is built in such a way that they are self-correcting materials. Please note down, every Montessori material is self-correcting, which promotes auto-education for a child. When I see that something is not going very well, the child understands it by himself or herself. And they would be able to correct all of those mistakes by themselves. So our aim is also the same. Whenever the child makes a mistake, instead of interrupting, give him a little time. Let him analyze what is the mistake. If he is unable to do that, always the teachers are there in the classes. They are going to be helping them to work on that. Now, coming down to the next thing, more confidence you show, the more opportunities you give, the child gets more encouragement, and we indirectly see that the child is so independent now, has developed such a self confidence that he is able to practice more, improvise more, teaches other peers very well in the classrooms also. So this is what a Montessori sensorial lesson is all about. Give a material to a child, let him know what is the order, let him know how to perform that material. In case if it is not constructed well, let him identify through multiple trials and errors. Over a period of time, he should be able to confidently work independently in completing the exercises. So from here, we are learning so many materials, correct? So what are we going to work here is those materials, I'm going to be dividing them. So there is a proper structure. Please note down. From here, we will divide materials into different forms. So I'm giving you a structure. So if say, for example, if I have 30 such sensorial materials, how do I order them? How do I segregate or how do I isolate them? The first form of my 6 sensorial areas could be materials which is used to teach sizes, materials which is used to teach forms, materials which are used to teach color, materials which are used to reinforce your tactile sense of touch, materials which are used to work on your gustatory sense of taste, materials for your olfactory for sense of smell, and at last materials which is reinforcing you to the sounds, that's your auditory skill development. Okay, so these would be your structure, wherein when you have these structure ready, you can now define or you can now classify the materials. I'm not going detail into the material in this overview. Now I'm going to give you the list. So please take a screenshot or you can note it down. So whenever I have to introduce on sizes, the concept of sizes, we can use our sensorial materials like pink tower, wherein you can introduce sizes, you can introduce brown stairs for thickness, knobbed cylinders again for thickness and heights, knobless cylinders for thickness and height, red rods for long and short or tall and short. So all of them are helping me to work on size related conceptuals for my children. Clear, everyone? What was my second form of learning? My second learning was depending on my form. What is the form of it? When I say form, I should be able to discriminate between the shape of those. Or is it a cylinder? Is it a cube? Is it a cuboid? I should be able to discriminate the shape of it. Correct? So this is your next progression from concrete to more abstract forms. So what is your child learning in this second skill? Your child is learning about various figures. When I say figures, they learn about shapes. It could be two-dimensional shapes. It could be three-dimensional shapes, right? So what are the materials we have? We have geometric solids and bases. So this is one of the beautiful material. I think all of us, we have learned it over. So the first one is our geometric solids and bases. The second material we use is our binomial cubes. So binomial cube again is a additional exercise which we use it even in our higher classes to introduce cube roots. Like multiple cubes, when you put them together, it can still give you a cube root. Trinomial cube is again for algebraic expression wherein we derive a formula of a plus b plus c the whole cube is what? We would see individually each material, how it is going to be working on. We also use materials like constructive triangles. We use rectangular boxes, triangle boxes, hexagon boxes. Again, hexagon box can be a large hexagon box and a small hexagon box. For now, you note down the materials. After this overview, I'll take you through each of the material and I'll show you how to do all of them. Clear? So this is one material, one form. So how many material in total? Here we have 5. Here we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 materials. Keep a count, okay? So 13 materials we will learn. Next classification, the third classification is based on my touch, on my tactile sense. So what sensorial materials can I use? I can begin with my mystery bag. I can have a matching mystery bag. I can use touch boards to define my rough and smooth. If touch boards are not available, I can use touch tablets. Again, I would reinforce rough and smooth over there. I can have my fabrics. I can have my baric tablet to talk about my weights. I can have my thermic bottles for temperatures. I can have thermic tablets again for temperatures because bottles will have a little difficulty for a teacher to work with different temperatures of waters, right? So we go on to our thermic tablets. So we had 13. Now how many more? 13 plus 9. 13 plus 9 is your 22. Okay, so 22 materials is done. Next, we are working with our gustatory and olfactory. Anything which is related to your smell and taste, we use our tasting bottles for our tasting and smelling bottles for our smelling. So 24. And for sounds, we use sound boxes, we use bells. I think I have missed out on that. So 26 to 27 materials is what we actually use it in our sensorial classes. So as teachers, if you are very thorough with this 25 to 27 materials to be introduced to each of the age group. Now, every age group will learn a different skill from the same material. Now, if I have a child of 4 years, probably they learn the definition cards. They do a 3-part card learning. But for a 3-year, they would only do a basic material. If a 5-year I have, they might also write something on that. So the level of you introducing the conceptuals should change. It should change, but the material would remain intact for the same thing. So what we do in our classes, when you have to introduce such a lesson in sensorial area in your Montessori classroom, you have to reinforce through exploration. Let the child explore first. Okay. For example, like when you are going for a walk, you can ask the child. We saw that in our classes, right? So can you also see some shape similar to it? We also learned about this color. Look at the leaf. It's of the same color, right? So you have to keep reinforcing the conceptions that you actually learned. And say, suppose if you are a teacher, you can also write it in your homework, like, go on a nature walk, observe the leaves, observe the patterns, collect the leaves of the following colors. And then the child brings along those materials, and then you can talk about a little bit more. Correct? So you can also talk about when they are bringing some objects, when they are experimenting with some objects. Is it big? Is it small? Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it smelling good or bad? What about its thickness? Is it thick or is it thin? Oh, look at it. It's a tall or a short pencil. Every time, not only in sensorial, any language class you can introduce, art classes you can introduce, we have to consistently work on the skills. So that's the reason the lesson plans will make a huge difference. When you are making a very well planned detailed lesson plan, this is not only helping your children to work on these conceptuals, but also it will prepare your child to become logically aware of why they are doing, what is the perspective of doing this lesson, and they become amazing in learning these conceptuals. So it indirectly helps them to develop on multiple of their senses, okay, through the world or through the environment that you have given it for your child. So this is our introduction, and we would now see every material what we listed in detail. Okay, so are we good to go on that? So this is going to be a pure Montessori materials, and we have seen how they have been classified into sizes, form, then what was the next one? It was related to your
Aesthetic,
texture, correct? Smell and taste,
gust, yes, auditory,
yes, on the sounds, right? So we have to
olfactory.
be dividing our materials into these proper categories. From here, we go in detail. Okay, so let's get started, and welcome back to all the students who have joined in a little late. So welcome Sonali, Shobha, Aparna, Lipi, Maunika, Usha, and I have a student iPhone. Please rename. And I have a student 1234. Please rename your names, otherwise you will be called with that name. Lipi. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for joining me on time. So now we are going back to learning each of those materials very much in detail. Okay, so if you don't have a notebook, please grab a notebook. You can also make some notes. You can start making some notes on that. Okay, so yesterday I think we learned about red rods, we learned about brown stairs, and we learned about what?
Pink tower. Pink
Pink
tower.
tower. We learnt about our pink tower. The next exercise that we're
Color
going to be
tablets.
color tablets also we saw
Color
about it.
tablets are.
Color tablets also. Amazing.
Color
Okay.
tablets.
Now let me quickly move on to something called as our Nobless cylinders, because Nobless cylinders is also one such visual sense exercise which makes all of us to work on what conception? It is related to my
Size.
sizes,
Size.
correct? See, now you're able to differentiate. So in your questions, in your exams, if they say, demonstrate a material which is going to be helping you to work on the sizes, now you have all the choices. You can choose pink tower, you can choose brown stairs, you can choose knob cylinders, knobless cylinders and all. Okay. Now this is your knobless cylinder. What I want you to observe is, it comes with set of how many boxes? Set of 4 boxes. I have a green, red, yellow, and blue color boxes. Take a look at each of those cylinders which is specific to these colors. The red ones, if you see, the height is remaining constant, but look at their thickness, it's decreasing. Now take a look at the yellow one. As the thickness is reducing, the height is also reducing. Correct?
Yes.
Now, when I look at my blue one, the thickness will remain the same, but look at the height, it is all reducing. But look at the green, as your diameter is increasing, the height is decreasing. So these are some of the dimensional learning that you would be able to give it to your children when you're working with your knobless cylinders. The first important one is like we look into the overview, we learn what does this material consist of. So it consists of 4 boxes of 10 colored cylinders. And what do you teach with this? You teach about the thickness, and you can also teach about the heights. So it's a visual discrimination material. So you are seeing all these materials with your eyes. So I am specifically teaching the children two things. One is the diameter, one is the height. Please note down, using your Nobless cylinders, you will teach children what is the diameter of this cylinder, what is the height of this cylinder. Now, how do we measure? You can introduce a ruler. Give them ruler, let them measure what is the diameter of the cylinder. And for the younger kids, they have to arrange everything in sequence. Older kids can literally measure the diameter and they can also give me. Now, let me begin with my first one. Now, when I have my red cylinder, so here I can see that each cylinder is decreasing in its diameter. But look at the height remains constant. This is one of the variation in this set. Now, second one, if I take my yellow cylinder, each one of them, they are decreasing. But look at the diameter and the height, both of them are decreasing. Height is also decreasing, thickness is also decreasing. So this is one thing that you can work on. Now, when I have my green cylinder, look at the diameter. As the height increases, my diameter decreases. Or I can say as the height decreases, my diameter increases. Whichever is good enough for you to work on. Next, the last one is our blue cylinder. Here, it is varying in one dimension. My thickness would remain same, but look at the height. The height is decreasing. So that means the diameter is constant here. This is one of the, I could say, the easiest one to introduce the thicknesses. Now, say, suppose if you are a teacher and you want the children to construct certain patterns in your classes, we get these reference cards. So a teacher can print these. These cards are available on montessoriprintshop.com. So you can print these copy control cards for a reference. Now, when you give this one, what is the child supposed to do? The child is supposed to construct in the same way. Now here, what the child has constructed is a second pattern that we have given. And the child is able to do the same way. They have constructed in the same way. So it's a copy control card or a reference card. Now, similarly, I can use all the four of them and I can give a pattern for a child. And the child will start to construct. Take a look at the first one. It's the red, then the green, then the yellow. So when I have this pattern, look at the diameters of red and green and yellow of the first one, which is towards the left of me. It's got the same diameter. Then the blue. Then again, we have that decreasing diameters going. And look at the last ones. To balance it better, they have put the blue down and they have taken your red, green and yellow on top of it. So this is just for you to understand. You can give these reference cards for the child. It's going to be an amazing puzzle time activity. The child is able to focus a lot. They would be able to sit for a longer period of time and they would be able to work on it. So these are extensions. It's not required that you have to do it. But in case if your child is very smart, you can always give these exercises to your child to actually make it learn. So this was your Nobless cylinders to introduce thickness and height for your children. So it comes in 4 boxes, red, blue, green and yellow, each of them varying in a particular dimension. All right. Okay. So this was for which one? It was for your introduction to your sizes. Likewise, I can also have some other materials. What is my next material that I could always work with? I could also work with I could say like, my binomial cube. We also have binomial cube. Binomial cubes comes in that. No, I think it's the next one, right? So whenever you want to teach shapes to children, whenever you're wanting to teach form to a child, we can start introducing materials like binomial cube. So it's a great Montessori material for introducing the forms to children. So what Dr. Montessori always said is, the goal of early childhood education should be to activate the child's own natural desire to learn. Now just imagine you have kept such a beautiful material. Don't you think that the child is wanting to go touch and work with all those materials? This is what she kept reinforcing in the sensory education. Okay, so here is our binomial cube. We use it in our math classes also. It's a part of our sensorial curriculum also. So you can use it in your math and in your sensorial. Not only this, most of our sensorial materials are considered to be as the pre-math conceptuals, and we give that to our children to understand pre-math better. Now in binomial cube, whenever I'm working with my algebraic concepts or when I'm working with my spatial reasoning exercises, I give this material. How do I describe? It's a material which consists of many cubes. How many cubes? 8 cubes. So please remember, 8 cubes it has. These are 8 wooden blocks which will exactly fit into my box. Okay, now let me define those cubes. When I'm defining these cubes, all my diploma students, you have to write it in the same way when you are defining. If you forget about how to define, you can go to the shelf, pick up that material, look at it and write. So this one will have one red cube. I'll go back to the previous one. Can you see there is one red cube there? All the sides it is red. So I have one red cube, one blue cube, and 3 blue and black matching prisms. I don't say cube. Cuboid is also called prism. Okay. So I would have how many black and red matching prisms? 3. So one blue cube, 3 black and blue matching prisms. And all these pieces, once you put them together, they form a cube of binomial. That becomes your A plus B the whole cube. So why we introduce binomial cube? To introduce the cube form of the binomial A plus B the whole cube. Okay, so let me introduce now. So I have now I have to what I have to do. The first time when I get everything, I have to start separating them based on the color. So let me rearrange all of them based on the color. Can you see now I have sorted based on the color? The red cube together, then all the prisms of red and black, all the prisms of my blue and black, and then my blue cube. The blue cube will be a little smaller compared to my red cube. So what is my red cube giving me or giving me the answer as? It is a cube. Since I have 3 prisms and it is of a color red, it gives me the definition for my 3a square b. Okay. Since I have my blue, it is 3ab square. Okay. Now I have my smaller cube that becomes my b cube. Okay. Now let's see how can we actually work on putting all of these cubes together to make an answer. Okay. So when I show you the demonstration of how exactly we do that, you should be able to work on. Let me give you a brief working of how is it a cube. How is it a cube? How is it a cube? Length into breadth into height. So A into A becomes your A cube. Correct? So in your cube, all the 3 sides are same. So that's why it's A cube. Now take a look at the red and the black combination. It's rectangular. So it becomes your cuboid. For your cuboid, 2 sides are same. One side is smaller, right? What are the 2 sides which is same? A, that is your height, and your length is A and A. But look at the breadth, it is smaller. So that's the reason it's A into B. You're able to get that? So it becomes your A square B. Now the blue cube, all of them are same. So it's B into B. Now look at these two in blue and black. 2 sides are of the same length and height. So it's B into B and the width is changing. So that becomes your A. So it becomes your B square A. Now are you able to relate to the previous formula that I had put here? How this is A cube? How this is 3A square B? How is it 3AB square? And how is it B cube? Okay. So students who have taken diploma program, you have to be able to hold the cube in your hand And you should say this is length, this is height, this is breadth. So it's varying, and this is the formula I have to write. It's A into A into A. And then you take your other prism that is red and black, and you say this is your A, this is your A, and this becomes my B. So it's A square B, A into B. So you can go step by step, explain. Only after you have a proper explanation of each of those cubes is what you start constructing your cube. And you would demonstrate that this is a material which is used to work for your binomial cube representation, and we use it in our Mont class. For what classes can I introduce this mathematical formulae? We don't do it for our preschoolers at all, but you teachers should know why is it used, what is the binomial form of it. But for children, you don't have to teach. But if your children are ready to learn about this, there's nothing which is going to be stopping it. So you have to print this label card along with this material and keep it. So this is your preparation. So as a teacher, you have to physically represent this mathematical formula by keeping up this binomial cube equation. So what's your A plus B the whole cube? That is A plus B into A plus B into A plus B, which is nothing but your A cube plus 3A square B plus 3AB square plus B cube. Done? All right. Okay. So how do we present it to this exercise to the children? So you ask the child to bring this material. Let the child open the box, take out all the 8 boxes. Let them examine closely all these blocks. Let them hold it onto their hand. Notice how each cube is made up of. What is the cut? What are the colors? How are they fitting in together? Right? Because we have cubes and prisms. When they are fitting it together, they are making a perfect cube altogether. So this is very beautiful for all of us to start with. Now, I would encourage you first to sort. See, sort based on the colors. You have to sort everything on colors. Then it becomes easy for you to construct. So we have something as a pattern card. So if you have a red cube, see where that red is, put it onto that. And slowly you start constructing all of that. So towards the end, Dr. Montessori also says imitation is very important. How teacher is doing, how teacher is sorting, how are you presenting the lesson becomes very important. When a teacher is doing it randomly, when you don't arrange it, arrange all those prisms and cubes properly, the child will also learn the same way. This becomes very helpful in binomial material. As Dr. Montessori says, imitation is a tool given by nature to children. When a teacher does it in a very systematic way, the child tries to copy you. And the child will also adapt to do it in the same way. Okay? Because children are born to imitate others, it's in their nature. Okay? Let them get accustomed to the specific environment. Let them respect that material. Let them respect those exercises, how they exactly work on. What do you think about this one? Did you like doing binomial cube? I'm very sure children will love doing this because when you give them to sort it out, they enjoy the most. Now, I wanted to show you also how do we work on that. Okay. So just give me a moment. Let me quickly open that video for you and you should be able to look into that. Knob cylinders, right? So it's called the binomial. Yes. Okay. Let's take a look at this demonstration. And this is our binomial cube. And as soon as you open this binomial cube, you have multiple cubes and prisms. Now, can you see? You have one blue. What is it? Cube. And what are the remaining ones, which is a combination of my blue and black? These are called prisms.
Yes, sir.
Why is it a prism? Because it is my cuboid. So I have how many prisms I have? Blue and black. 3 prisms I have blue and black. 3 prisms of red and black. Now I have another cube which is totally red. So the first step for me is I have to sort them based on the colors. The cube that is following my red, the prisms that is following my red cube, and the prisms that is following my blue one. Now I have this. Now let me start taking by constructing. So my red is touching the base red. Now I have to see I have a red here. In my next prism diagram, I have a black. So I have to choose from which combination? Red touching black. So I have to choose from red and black combination. So I have red and this is black. So let me put it in this way. When I go to the next one here, I have again my red touching black. So again, I have to choose a red which touches my black to construct my first this thing, right? Now, take a look at the fourth one. Now, can you tell me what colors should I have to be picking? It is my
Black and blue.
black
Cube.
touching blue.
Cube.
Yes, black and blue. So I can pick up my black and blue and I construct my first layer. Easy. When you don't sort, it becomes little difficult for all of us to actually work on. So this becomes my first layer of my binomial cube. Now I follow the second thing, but I have to first start with my cube. I always start with my cube. So I take my blue. So I have a complete blue base. Then I have to take my blue touching my black. I position that. Then I have my blue touching my black again. Lovely. So I have to be placing that. Then towards the end, I have my black touching the red. So I complete that. And this is my second layer. What happened here? There were multiple pieces. There were multiple pieces of my cubes and prisms. But when we put them together, they made a cube, right? So this is your binomial cube to introduce the concept of a plus b, the whole cube. Why it is a plus b? Because there are only two cubes. One is red, one is blue. So it's a plus b. When you go trinomial, you will have a yellow color cube. So it becomes a plus b plus c, the whole cube. Okay. So thank you very much. So this is our part 1. So I would want all of you to quickly disconnect and rejoin back for our part 2. Thank you guys. I'll see you soon. Join the same meeting.